So, what are you seeing more success with calling the lead? Are you seeing more success with emails? Are you seeing success with video, text? Like, what kind of stuff are you seeing that's causing people to interact back with them? All right, welcome everybody. As we are getting loaded on Facebook, we've got some people who are watching us here live through the Zoom channel, and welcome in. And we will be live here on Facebook in just 1 second. So I appreciate everybody coming in, and looks like we are live on Facebook. So today we're going to talk about something that is really important in our market today, and that's how to win, because our market is changing, but it's also arguably the strangest market that I've seen in the last 20 years. And Stuart, our guest today, is going to talk a little bit about what they're doing and how they're using Chime, and just basically the life cycle of the lead from before we even meet them until post-closing. So Stuart, I'd love you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, and then let's kind of get started.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in real estate technology for the last 12 years. Worked at realtor.com for 8 of those years. So very familiar with lead generation and what it takes to actually be successful when you're spending lots of money on leads. I joined Chime recently and really love the product itself and how it actually takes a lead and walks through a whole process to make those leads actually convert on a higher level than traditional lead generation companies. So, we don't claim to be a huge lead generation company. We do that with SEO and pay-per-click, and we work with social media, but we also integrate with 85 of the top lead generation companies out there. So once the lead comes into the system, it's about nurturing that lead and putting it through the process of directed follow-up to make sure that the lead has actually become successful.
I love it. And, honestly, in today's world, you kind of mentioned some of the bigger companies out there, your Zillows and your realtor.com, and we're not here to talk good or bad about them, but there's a lot of people who have, that's not even an availability, right? Like right now, if you're an agent in my market and you say, hey, I want to buy some realtor.com leads, the answer is no. You want to buy some Zillow leads, the answer is no. So, we still have the standard, hey, Sphere and referrals, but ultimately, we're looking at a company like Chime because you're an all-in-one solution where you got a front-facing website, and like you mentioned, you can do SEO and PPC. So let's kind of walk through the life cycle of what that looks like. So, tell us what is unique about that. I get a brand new lead, it comes into me because a PPC lead, because I think that's probably the majority of the business that you guys are probably generating. What does that look like, and why would I want to use your platform to process that lead?
Yeah, so we are a full featured CRM system, but where in the past people have failed with CRM is that follow-up and the conversion of those. Back in the day when you were buying realtor.com or Zillow leads, you're talking about a conversion rate of 1% to 2%, which is incredibly low for any lead generation kind of system. And that was accepted. People just kind of felt like they were a necessity in life. Well, the fact of the matter is it's not, right? Once you've learned how to attract other people using different methods, once you get into the system, and one of the keys is how quickly you follow up. Obviously, there's this thing about real estate leads that if you don't follow up within the first 5 minutes, you're out the door, because the average consumer now is looking at 8 different websites and trying to find a realtor that's going to work with them. So our system through the AI chatbot is reaching out to people very quickly. And the difference is it does sound like it is the realtor who's responding. So we've developed the AI to make sure that it is what it is and it does the job it's supposed to do, on top of those personal touches that are also required in your methodology around what you want to do with regards to follow up to take them from lead in the door through to transaction.
So let's talk best practices. Lead hits the system 5 seconds ago. Me as an agent, I'm using your system. I love your system. It works. What's my next step? The lead hits that system. I'm assuming it's a full lead, by the way. Name, phone number, email address, and not,
Sure.
And good contact information. So
yeah, so the follow-up starts pretty much instantaneously. So we have something called Smart List built into our system. And that's really what the realtor uses as their follow-up mechanism, right? So there is methodology around it. So lead comes in, this takes place, whether it's an email, a text message instantaneously, or they follow into the drip campaigns coming out of the smart list and how it's been set up. So there is a library of them in there for people to use. And then also, obviously, I've talked about the chatbot already and what the powerful mechanisms that it has built in. So yeah, overall, what we're talking about is a list of follow-ups, depending if you're using a coach and you're using their methodology, or just one that you build yourself for the system. And it's going to walk the client through what you believe is the best way to, again, get them from real lead, to where they transact. And let's not forget about what happens after they transact as well, because they can be long-term customers. And I think real estate agents have to start thinking about leads in that way, is that once they transact, let's not forget about them. There's a massive opportunity for future transactions. You know, I think about myself and a realtor I used. You know, I get a calendar every Christmas. But I've also bought two rental properties and a vacation home without that person's use, because they just didn't keep in touch with me properly. So I believe that there's a system. What we do is just not about taking one transaction, it's long-term follow-up as well.
Okay, so I love that, and I want to come back to that because you made a very interesting point. What I heard is the realtor that you've used to buy one of your houses was very traditional. When I say traditional, I'm getting a calendar for my favorite sports team. It has a schedule on it, or I'm given a calendar that has my logo on it someplace. And what I'm hearing from you, at least, and again, you are obviously not the only type of personality we have out there, but that doesn't mean anything to you anymore. That used to be like, what did I do? Well, I sent them a calendar every year, and now they do 10 transactions with me. But to your point, that doesn't sound like that was effective to you. So, but before we get to the post-closing, let's just talk about pre-closing. So years ago, and again, this data is probably up a little out of date, but when I say years, 4 or 5 years ago, we were hearing that to make contact with an internet lead, a PPC, a Facebook, any of those type of leads, a minimum of 8 contacts on the average. Are you guys seeing that? And what kind of rhythm are you seeing the most successful people in your system using? Is it calls? Is it text? Is it voicemails? What kind of things are you seeing that are having the best effect?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. Really, the AI chatbot is the introduction, and then the realtor actually has to get involved. So whether it's preset emails, preset texts that are going out with the relative information, but also producing really good information for the potential customer, like a good CMA that talks about the property, what's going on around the property, and it's involved. You know, it's more than 8 steps. It's probably 10 to 12 steps where you're thinking text, email, send a CMA, have a personal call, get the appointment scheduled, and then what comes after that. So it's not easy. It's not a one-step process where the phone rings, you pick it up, and you have a client. That's not how it works anymore, because they have become more knowledgeable. When you think about the one good thing that came out of COVID is people are much more willing to spend time looking at real estate on the web. And they have many different options when they're looking for a real estate agent, because all that information is out there. So unless you start with the basics where you've got a really good IDX website and then pushing that information into your CRM for automated follow-up, and then providing the relevant information that a client might need, like I said, through a really good CMA or just a really good conversation, that's where you have to go today. Don't think that technology is going to do the work for you. It's certainly going to help you get there. But ultimately, it does require the technology and some human touch and human interaction.
Cool. So, we're seeing some stuff in the chat about, lead generation. So I'm going to take it back a little bit further, give the people what they want. Let's talk about if I have a Chime website, and even if I don't have a Chime website, if I have another website, what are you seeing as the most effective way to start generating some of those leads, and give me some general across the board what kind of numbers, because I can tell you I know exactly what it costs in my market to buy a realtor.com lead, what it costs to buy a Zillow lead, what it costs to buy a Facebook lead. But using a system like yours, realistically, A, how challenging is it? Like, what do I need to do to create those leads? And then B, what are we looking at for a cost, so I can get a feel for what kind of conversion rate I have to have success?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because lead generation is one of those games where you can invest a lot and buy leads from 12 different sources if you want. But then there's also the really good ways to grow your business. And today people look at PPC and SEO as the way to do it. But when you think about that, it's starting to get really expensive to position yourself properly on Google. And not all real estate agents have the funds to actually do that effectively. So what you need to do is remember that lead generation doesn't start with the new lead coming in here, coming into the system. It is not yes, it is about new leads coming in and the technology and the lead services that you might use, but it's also about the database that you're building up. So most real estate agents that I speak to on a regular basis don't have a plan moving forward. So in November, they should sit down, put together a really good plan about what they need to do and how many leads they need to do every week to actually grow their business. So I choose an easy number. Let's say 8. I'm going to try and get 8 leads into my system every week. The next question is what? Where do I get those leads? So my broker is going to give me 1. I'm going to get 3 from social media, right? That's got me 4. I play on a hockey team, or I do whatever socially that's going to drive at least 1 more. And then there's a gap of where am I going to find those last 2 leads to find, that are real. So there is the SEO, the PPC, but then you have to think about companies that provide leads, and is it worth the investment? And are they going to convert for me? And that's where we come in. So that's when I say it's all, people are saying, I thought this was about lead generation, but lead generation is really about the conversion. And people are now, top real estate agents are starting to talk not about cost per lead, but they're starting to look at cost per transaction, right? So if I buy $10,000 in leads from Zillow and only one of them converts, that lead cost me $10,000.
I better have a pretty high conversion rate, right? Or a pretty high price point to make that work. So
correct.
Yeah.
So you have to start thinking out of the box a little bit. Sorry.
So, and I think you make a very valid point that it is important for people to look at. Like, I don't care if I can buy 1 million leads for $1. Now I've spent $1 million, but I have no conversion. So, there's this fine line. Obviously bottom of the funnel leads, your signed calls, even your portals are going to be the easiest to convert, but they may not be the most profitable, right? Because at the end of the day, again, I was doing math with somebody about that yesterday. If you got a 5% conversion rate and your leads cost $300 a piece, do some math on that. And what you're going to find out is that's bad math, especially if you're splitting that with a team leader, or you're a team leader splitting that with an agent. The math is bad. So, step 1, determine your lead sources. Obviously we've got, you can still use the portal leads. We can use PPC, we can use SEO. And by the way, for those of you watching, the thing that I love about what Stuart said today is SEO is free, by the way. Like, it's not instantly free, but when that lead comes in and becomes an SEO, I actually do have a Chime site, and I get somewhere between 1 to 2 leads every week that are just coming from SEO. I have no idea where they're coming from. And honestly, those are my favorites because I know those cost me exactly $0. So that's great. But let's talk about now, we've got some leads in our system. We've got maybe their PPC, maybe their SEO, and you mentioned the AI. So there's a lot of different systems that have AI. And I'm kind of intrigued what your guys' philosophy is. And what I mean by that is, if you see something interacting with the AI, do you let the AI run through that itself, or are you actually suggesting that the agent steps in and takes over? And also, if you don't mind, you mentioned that it's coming across as the agent. I've seen a lot of other systems that come across as the assistant. I'd love to hear your perspective on that and why that's working for Chime users.
Yeah, so let's start there. So first of all, the reality is that consumers are becoming more educated, and they understand that they are going to have some AI built into the responses that they get. Sure. And typically when you see that assistant thing pop up, that, well, what you're talking to right now is a computer. Whereas what we've done is we've designed the AI specifically around how a real estate agent would respond. And what we've done is we've actually asked the agent community on answers that should be given, topics, formats, words that should be used, real estate speak, if you want to call it, built into that technology. So when someone does get a message from us, it does really come across as it is agent based. Yes, at some point the agent does have to step in, because it's only so going to take it so far. I said it before, technology is not going to necessarily build your business, but it's certainly going to help you build along from getting leads in the door, nurturing them through your process to the point where they transact and beyond.
Well, that's great. And, so once we've got the AI, there's a chance obviously that it won't interact with them. So, there's a chance people, you send them a text message, you do an AI, whatever, they don't interact. So now we've got a lead and we paid money for that lead. It's in the system. So what are you seeing more success with calling the lead? Are you seeing more success with emails? Are you seeing success with video text? Like what kind of stuff are you seeing that's causing people to interact back with them?
Yeah, there's some really good technology out there. So I'm sure you're familiar with BombBomb, but BombBomb
Oh
Video
yeah.
is super, super, super easy to use. And it's an instant response. And it's really a great 30-second introduction to the realtor. Hey, I'm Stuart Sim. This is what I'm all about. This is the areas that I work in. And this is what I believe is going to happen with the market. And that's a super introduction tool, right? I love the BombBomb system. I think it's a must if people are trying to grow their business. But then again, it's all about nurturing and the processes you put in place as an individual realtor to make sure that you are doing the proper follow-up. Because if you're not doing it, your neighbor realtor is. Spend time developing the system, working with the system to get those best results. We have people on staff that are there to help you. Use those people to make sure that you're getting the help you need to make use of the system. One of the problems with CRM, let's be honest, Brian, like when I go and talk in front of groups, typically people are telling me that they're using it 15 to 20% of the actual system that's available. So my goal is trying to get it up to where they're using at least 40% of the Chime system, because they're going to become better for that, and eventually 75. And I don't think you'll ever get 100% of the system being used, but the more they use, the better.
And yeah, I love that. And it's important. So, you know what? You're paying for technology. No matter what technology you're using, figure out how to maximize it. By the way, not using it, they don't give you a discount. And I don't think they should. I'm not remotely suggesting that. So I wanted to answer a quick question. Somebody asked, what is BombBomb? So basically, BombBomb is a video email system. And the beauty of BombBomb is the fact that it comes across as a GIF message. So in other words, I bet you 97% of the BombBombs I see, Stuart, and you probably see the same thing. You see somebody doing this number, right? They're waving. And so you open up this email and there's a picture of me waving at you. What we find with that is the open rate is significantly higher for that than it's going to be if you have some link that looks like I'm going to go to some site that I don't want to be at, or my computer's going to say, don't go there. So this, we have this nice GIF message that pops up in front of you. So let me ask you this.
And it's a real human touch, right? It puts a face to a name very quickly. And they've done some great things, and there's other companies that do it as well, right? But
yeah,
that whole developing your system as a realtor doesn't start and end with the leads. It's a super important component. And I can go spend, thousands and thousands of dollars of lead generation, but most realtors can't. So it's really important to pick the system that works best for you, pick the lead generation system that's affordable for you, and combining the two to make it work and guarantee yourself the conversions.
So I love it. So new lead comes in, we're letting the AI handle it, which is great, because I've never heard an agent say the thing that I love about being a real estate agent is calling new leads when they come in. No one's ever told me that. I imagine there's some crazy people like me who are really excited, and I think that happens. But letting the AI do some of that work for you, because here's the reality. I'm out showing a house. I shouldn't be calling a lead and saying, hey, excuse me, I'm showing a house, or I'm in a listing appointment. I shouldn't be calling those leads. So we've got that AI that kicks in immediately. Right. Then I'm guessing that you're suggesting that step one of our drip is a BombBomb email. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, the first thing that should go out, right? Hi, thank you so much for your inquiry. This is me. This is who I am, the waving hand. Okay. So absolutely.
Yeah. So what, and again, by the way, I'm making an assumption that we haven't had success contacting them. So what would you do next? Would it be a text? Would it be a phone call? What are the next steps that we're finding that the people who are having high success? We've got AI, we've got BombBomb. What are other things that you're seeing that are having a high level of success after that?
The text message is the next thing I would use, because people respond much greater to text than they do to email right now. It's too easy to bypass emails and not even give them a second thought. Like I do it all the time, to be honest with you.
Me too.
But text messages come in, I see them right away. typically if it's from a number I recognize or someone that I recognize or want to talk to, I'm going to answer. And through that text message, I personally would set a phone call where I actually get my personal introduction to the customer, tell them a little bit myself, and then I would try and set my, face-to-face appointment if possible.
I love that. And it's funny, I hear a lot of people today, and I think this is just kind of where the industry's headed, is their objective with the text message is to set an appointment. I disagree with that. I agree with what Stuart said. And what I mean by that, the objective is to increase the level of communication. Here's what I mean by that. To me, the highest level of communication is in person, followed by Zoom, followed by a phone call, followed by a text message as we go down through that. And I think a lot of people try and get stuck at that thing. Well, I got a text message, I should set an appointment. And here's the thing. If I set a text message appointment with somebody, I'm sure there's at least a 10% chance they're going to show up. So I think it's really great that I appreciate that you're talking about, hey, let's get to the point where we can get on the phone with these people or theoretically in front of them as quickly as possible. At the end of the day, what the stats are still like, what the average person works, the 62% of the people work with the first realtor they meet in person still, even in today's world with all this other bombardment. So I love that. Well, and we've got about 5 minutes left. It's a pretty short webinar here today, but I wanted to, you've pointed this out. Let's talk about post nurture. So I've gone through, I've got this person, I've converted them. They're now part of my system and they're with me forever. What kind of things is Chime doing or suggesting to their users to stay in contact with that person long term? Because to your point, people transact a lot more than they used to, right? It used to be every 7 years they would transact. Now we're seeing 2 to 3 years. So
well, let's talk about that first. Let's talk about
value.
that for a second, because it's a super interesting part of the industry. So if you bought a house 10 years ago, chances are you've built up a ton of equity. House prices have gone through the roof, right? I bought a house 10 years ago for 500 grand. It's worth 1.6 million now. So I've got 1.1 million in equity that I could possibly use to buy other property. So if I'm a real estate agent, what should I be doing? I should be finding out, first of all, what the market is doing in my area. And then people that I've transacted with in the past, I should go back to them and see what the opportunity is. Plus, people's status in life is changing all the time. I have 2 kids. They're both moved out of the house. Do I still need the house I live in today? I don't. So the chances are I could downsize, think about a vacation property. So my belief with your database is that you need to become a true consultant and be willing to pick up the phone and say, hey, there's this great waterfront property. We could do some things and make this happen for you.
Awesome. And I think that's super important. And let's talk about touches. So realistically, are you suggesting we do those touches with BombBomb? Are you suggesting we do those touches with text messages, phone calls? And obviously we're not going to do it all the same. And I can't call every one of my clients every single month. After a while, I run out of hours in my day if I'm being successful. So, what kind of drips are you guys setting up and what are those including?
Yeah, and that's what it is. It is all these different touches that you have to think about. And you have your introductory, pre-client smart list. You've got your post-client smart list. And then you've got your nurturing smart list, which is really the one that becomes important, because it's going to start with, the lead comes in the door, you send that BombBomb video and those processes that you do next. And you really do have to follow them. And maybe only 2 of the 10 are personal touches from you as a real estate agent, but you have to feel comfortable with the system that you're using is doing those touches for you, and you're getting the response rate that you expect, right? So if you do build a solid plan at the start of the year, your expectations should be pretty great, and you should see those conversions going up. And that's what we expect out of the users that are using Chime. We don't want to see 1 to 2% closers or conversion rates. We want somewhere between 8 and 12%, which is a fantastic conversion rate.
Yeah, the reality is, historically across the market, to your point, you're looking at 1 to 2%. And really the only way that I know, we're talking about lead generation and lead conversion. The only way that I know to get that number significantly higher is long-term nurture and long-term follow-up, right?
That's
So,
correct.
When I got in this industry, when someone told you were 6 months out, you said, great, call me in 6 months. Don't use that script. If anyone's listened to it, it's a horrible script. But ultimately now I can follow up without doing any of the work. And what I mean by that is I set it up one time, right? I got a BombBomb email, I got a text message, I let the AI do the work. And that's what systems like Chime are all about. They're about, you do your part, and when someone raises their hand, that's when you take over. But let the system do a lot of that work for you, because at the end of the day, it's too hard. I tell people this all the time. When I started as a real estate agent, I got 6 leads a month. Well, I can deal with those on a piece of paper and a sticky note. My team's got 6 leads during this conversation. So the difference is catastrophic. And if we don't have systems that are going to constantly do that, it's going to be challenging. So I'm going to ask one quick question, and this may be a little bit off topic, but it's something somebody put in there. Are you hearing conversations, and this may not be your area, I don't know, but interest rates in December were high 2s, low 3s, and now you're looking at above 5. Are you hearing some feedback on how agents are handling that?
Well, yeah, there's this massive fear, right, about inventory, high prices, and now interest rates have jumped into the conversation. But think about it for a minute. When you bought your first house, Brian, what were your interest rates? Mine were like 12.
7. Mine was 7.
Yeah. So, you're still, the interest rates are still below what they were years ago. So you should still feel confident that people should be able to go into those and not worry too much about them. The bad thing that happens is when someone buys at 7 and it goes to 12, because then there's an issue. So hopefully the government keeps those under control and they don't get as high as they have been in the past. But right now, you should still feel very comfortable with the rates as they are at 5.5. I haven't heard much about them going higher than what they are right now. So we're okay for the next little while.
And I feel the same exact way. And I can tell you right now, when I got in the industry, the lowest interest rate I saw was 6.25, and I saw as high as 12, 13%, the subprime days. But, and by the way, nobody complained. So we have a little bit of sticker shock that's going on right now because the rates went like this real quick. But I believe that we're going to see that normalized over time. And, again, I sold a ton of houses at 6.5% and no one balked. So it's just about getting people to learn and accept this is the reality of where we're at. And, it's going to stabilize. Things are going to change, and that's okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So anyway, we promised you the 25 minutes, Stuart. So I appreciate you being on here today. Final thoughts, and then I'll finish up.
Yeah, I just think everybody, we can spend lights out on lead generation, and it is an important tool for us. Obviously, we need people to talk to, but your sphere, your referral network are just as important, and the book of business you have already today. So you got to combine those 3 or 4 different things to succeed as a real estate agent or a broker. The information and the money you've spent in the past can drive the business for the future.
I love it. So administrative stuff. First of all, if you found this useful or you just don't have time to finish watching it with us today, we will be on the LCA YouTube channel and replay this. You can watch it as many times as you want. And then secondly, we have an affiliate link in there to get you a free demo if you're interested in taking a look at what Stuart and I have talked to, open up the hood and get an idea what this would actually look like on a day-to-day basis. Great group of people who can do a great demo for you. So Stuart, thank you so much for your insight today, and we really appreciate you being here. LabCoatAgents, thank you for being here today, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, everybody.